This was me at the start of year 10, and at the end of my first term of GCSEs, I got a 5 in my end of topic test. Flash forward a year, and this is me getting a 9 in my final GCSE. So how did I do it? In today's video, I will be going over 5 progressive steps that allow me to increase 4 grades in my maths GCSE while still being able to maintain my hobbies and my social life. Let's get right into it. So for the first step, what I would recommend you guys do is download a copy of your maths syllabus and color code all the topics based on how confident you are in each of them. I would personally use red, yellow, and green. This allows you to initially gain an understanding of the topics that you might not be so familiar with and where your weaknesses lie. The mistake that I and a lot of GCSE students tend to make when studying maths is that we tend to stick to our strengths rather than our weaknesses. However, by highlighting all the different topics in the spec, you are now able to gain understanding of where you might not be so good at and how you can begin to improve on that topic. This leads me directly on to step 2, which is now finding the best resource that allows you to improve on your weakness. Some people like to use the textbook, some people like to use YouTube videos. Me personally, I always like to use YouTube videos when learning a new content that I wasn't so familiar with. I would use YouTube channels such as the GCSE Maths tutor, as I thought that he was very useful specifically. However, if you guys like to use other resources, then definitely use those to learn the topics that you are weak at. I've added in the description a link down below to different websites that have a bunch of revision notes and questions on different math topics that you might be able to use to help you understand those topics that you would have highlighted red in step 1. This leads me now on to step 3, which is to begin doing questions on the topics that you have now tried to improve on. So you've looked at the spec, you've seen where your weaknesses are, you've either watched a video or learned in the textbook that topic again, and now it's important to apply your knowledge in a practical setting. What I would do sometimes if I couldn't find specific questions on the topics that I was weak at is I would ask ChatGPT to just make a progressively difficult list of the topic I was not great at, and that would help me a lot because I could start off with easy questions and then progress my way down to harder questions, allowing me to actually get a good understanding of the topic that I was weak at. Now this kind of leads me on to step 4, which is where I believe that you guys should entirely focus on just doing hard questions on those topics. For my exam board, the Edexcel IGCSE, a company known as CGP would create topic and revision booklets that had questions that were just grade 8 to 9 targeted questions. So I would do those a lot and practice those a lot. But if your exam board doesn't have an alternative to that, then what you can do is simply just ask ChatGPT to make you some difficult questions on those topics and just practice doing those difficult questions. This kind of allows you to become more familiar with the style of questions that they can ask you in the exam and in your mocks, and will also allow you to become more confident in answering difficult questions, which is pretty much the hardest they can get. So if you can answer those questions, then you can definitely answer questions that are a lot easier than that as well. Now moving on to the final step, step 5, you guys have to do timed practice. Time practice is very important because in the exam, obviously you're going to be timed, so you have to make sure that you can do your questions timed and that you can obviously get all the questions done in the given time slot. If you're doing a revision notebook instead of an actual past paper, and it might not be clear on how much time you should give yourself, then what you can do is, if the revision notebook doesn't actually say how much time you should give to these questions at the beginning, then count up all the marks in the paper and add maybe like 5 to 10 to that, depending on how many questions there are, and make that the amount of time in minutes you have to answer all the questions. That's what I would do personally, and it would train me to kind of answer these questions in time conditions. So guys, that's pretty much all the advice I have to give to progress from a low grade in GCSE Maths to a higher grade. I mean, this is personally what I did, so I can kind of back that this has worked for me at least, and I think it's what a lot of students also do when practicing for their GCSE Maths exams. In my opinion, having done A-level Maths as well, GCSE Maths in retrospect isn't obviously very difficult, but I can see that when you're starting, maths, in year 10, going into year 11, it can be kind of overwhelming since this is the first time you have to actually lock in for it. But honestly, maths doesn't have to be that difficult, especially at GCSE level. Just make sure that you follow these steps with topics that you're not really sure about. And by doing that, I can almost guarantee that you're going to become very proficient in your weaknesses and proficient in the course content in general. So guys, that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. If you guys have any questions in the comments, do let me know. And if you guys have any video suggestions, also do let me know in the comments below, as I will be more than happy to help with either A-level revision, GCSE revision, university applications. I will be here to help for that. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.